This I don't need. What's up, dudes? How the fuck do I get this? Oh, lost monetization already. I don't know why my name is down there. Let's see if we can change that. There we go. All right. Welcome to the Vigorous Q&A. It's been 2 weeks. Happy New Year's, everybody. 2025. Well, Bitcoin is still below 100,000, so it doesn't really feel too good. Hopefully we can get some crypto gains over the next couple of days. The new guy's taking into office soon, so maybe that can incentivize the market a little bit more. Let's see. Let's go. Exactly. Okay, so next Monday will be the Anabolic Roundtable episode 8 featuring John Jewett. We discussed steroid cycles, first cycles to IFB Pro cycles. Will be about, let's see, let me quickly go there to my, I see that Chase Irons is also live right now, taking my viewers. That's all right. He can go live whenever he wants to. So 2 hours and 10 minutes for the Anabolic Roundtable, dropping on Monday. And then we go right back to schedule with some good content. So I hope you guys enjoy. Boatload of questions dropped, so let's just go right into it. Alvaro JD asks, oh, looks like they got a new setup here over at StreamYard. Let me see if we can change anything there. Media assets, style, minimal, bubble. Hey, this is the one I like. This one doesn't look so good. I like this one. Show headlines. What is that? No, never mind. Don't want to show that. Rounded. Ooh. All right. Okay. Enough messing around. Happy New Year, Alvaro, and Happy New Year to everybody in the Vigorous crew. How was the trip to New Zealand? That was actually great. I went to Wellington and Taupo, and then a little dude tour up to the north to some what is it called? Redwood Forest, where they had some skywalks, so that was a lot of fun. But I got like over 100 people from New Zealand asking me if they wanted to meet up, which is weird because for the last, I think, 6 weeks, I've been announcing that I would come to New Zealand during Christmas and New Year periods, or right before New Year's. And nobody wanted to do a meet and greet or a seminar or anything else in New Zealand. So I told you guys that I was going to come to Wellington and I was going to travel around New Zealand. Nobody said anything. And then I was in Wellington and visiting New Zealand. Everybody suddenly wanted to meet up, but I already had my entire holiday fully booked. So Christmas in Wellington, and that was great. Unfortunately, everything was closed, so we just did barbecue at home of my best friend who lives there in one of the mountains. He has a very nice house with a porch and a garden and all that stuff. So we were, doing a lot of barbecue and drinking a lot of wine and smoking a lot of cigars. It was great. And then we went to Taupo for about 3 days, or however you pronounce it, right next to the lake. So we had a house there, did some more barbecuing, and then we went to a steak restaurant in one of the resorts. Can't remember what it was called. Actually, yeah, it didn't even have an Instagram or Google Maps location, so I just tagged it as the Tongariro Lodge. But it was actually the Tongariro Lodge restaurant, and I'm probably mispronouncing everything. It was great food, by the way. I could highly recommend people in Taupo and Wellington to go there, even though it's maybe a 4-hour drive from Wellington. It was really, really good. Yeah, good food. So we went there, and where else did we meet? Where else did we go? We went to the lake. I got a horrible sunburn at the lake because, you know me, I'm here in Thailand, right? There's a lot of pollution and a lot of humidity in the UV that doesn't really go through. So when I go to the beach, I don't really put sun lotion. And then I went there at Taupo Lake, and the river's there, and I got my whole scalp was sunburned to shit. So now it's finally normal again, but I've been like scaling and blistering in the first week since I got back. Anyway, it was totally worth it. I got a nice swim in the lake, got a nice swim in the river. And we wanted to do some jet skiing, but we didn't really get around to it. But we did do, at the end of the day, I think we went on some catamaran from Taupo, and then we sailed around the lake. That was a lot of fun, even though the lake was a little bit choppy. But that was a nice end of the day, and they had Yeah, I had a couple Coronas on the catamaran, so that was nice. Yeah, it was a great trip, even though it was really short. I think next time I go to New Zealand, I gotta go for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and then we'll do the meetups and the meet and greets and stuff. But again, I will announce it here, and then don't contact me when I'm already there, because then by the time I'm there, the holiday is fully booked. So sorry that I didn't meet anybody when I was in New Zealand, but next time, maybe a couple months from now, yeah, I don't mind going back there. Because 6 days was way too short. All right, let's get started. Matthew Pete, welcome to the Vigorous crew. I'm sure there will be a question. James asks, how long can I run Cardarine before taking a break? How long of a break before running another cycle? Thank you, Steve. Well, you should take a break before you get cancer, obviously. Watch the Cardarine deep dive. There's, what was it? 19 studies showing cancerous effects in rodents, megadosing Cardarine, which you can extrapolate to the human equivalent dose, and the cancer might already start to manifest from a 20 milligram dose per day onwards. And then the anti-cancer dose is like from 30 milligrams onwards. So some conflicting reports. Watch the deep dive, right? You can cherry pick scientific evidence showing that Cardarine causes cancer, but also cherry pick scientific evidence that Cardarine has anti-cancer properties. Who are we to believe, right? Scientific evidence is scientific evidence. There's about twice as many studies showing cancerous effects to have the scientific evidence showing non-cancerous and actually preventative effects regarding cancer formation. So I don't know. How long would you take a break? I would run it at the end of your cutting phase when you're already on clenbuterol or mirabegron or thyroid hormones or other fat-burning aids and you need a little bit of a boost. Cardarine stacks very well together with Trembolone. If you're taking Trembolone at the last 6 to 8 weeks of your cutting phase, then I would throw in maybe 10 to 20 milligrams Cardarine before fasted cardio and maybe 10 to 20 milligrams before the workout, up to a maximum of, let's say, 30 milligrams per day. So wherever you need it most, 20 milligrams before fasted cardio and 10 milligrams before the workout, or 10 milligrams before fasted cardio and 20 milligrams before the workout, that's entirely up to you. I don't think anybody ever in the fitness industry has gotten cancer from Cardarine, but you can never be too safe and run it for shorter periods of time when you actually need it, when fat loss starts to stall. And how long of a break before running another cycle? Well, next time you do a cutting phase and fat loss starts to stall, which is probably going to be 6 months later or a year later, unless you do a yo-yo diet and you're always in a cutting phase because you eat too much over the weekend, then I would look into something more sustainable like mirabegron or growth hormone, right? And a steep caloric deficit. All right, Zionic asks, Coach, you advised I used both berberine and betaine while on holiday. I incorporated that protocol along with fasted medium intensity steady state cardio every morning, ate like an asshole, and came back 0 gains. Thank you. Okay, so that's better than I did because I came back morbidly obese. Luckily, I've been fasting for 4 days. So instead of the dihydroberberine and the betaine and the fasted cardio, which I did to a certain extent, maybe not entirely. I mostly ate like an asshole. Also, a lot of pizza, a lot of steak, even though the New Zealand food is absolutely great. When I went to some grocery store and they had some chocolatey brownie, I might have had 1 or 2 or 4. Yeah. And the pizzas we made at home was not 4-cheese pizza, but 5-cheese pizza, this thick. Yeah, you can't get that at the pizza shop. You got to make it yourself. So when you make a chorizo pizza, you have 3 kinds of chorizo on there. And then some blue cheese to finish it off. Good stuff. Anyway, so you did better than I did. So you probably didn't eat like an asshole enough. I ate more than an asshole than you did, and I definitely got a little bit chunky. But most of that is already gone after 4 days of fasting. So I just broke fast, a little bit of salmon and chia seeds. And tomorrow we're going right back to business. Jason Reed asks, hey, let's see. Hey, Coach Steve, Happy New Year. Having allodynia symptoms with Reta. I don't know what allodynia symptoms stands for. Dynia. What the hell is that? A condition where a person feels pain from a stimulus that normally wouldn't cause pain. Feels pain to the skin. Okay. I ramped up the dose up too quickly, backed with the dose to 2 milligrams per week. Any thoughts on how to mitigate the symptoms? Well, if you think that the allodynia symptoms are caused by the erythrocyte, stop the erythrocyte, let it metabolize and clear from the system for about 2 to 3 weeks and see if the issues are still there. If you get unexpected side effects, you stop taking whatever you think is causing it, and then reintroduce it later on at a low dose, starting with 0.5 milligram 3 times per week. So that's a total of 1.5 milligrams per week, and then building up with 0.25 milligram or 0.5 milligram per injection 3 times per week, every 2 to 3 weeks. So it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for the maximum effect of that particular dose of erythrocyte to really build up. So give yourself some time. Don't start with 5 milligrams. I was just watching the Chase Irons live stream, and I think he did like 5 milligrams or 8 milligrams in one shot, and with in combination with semaglutide and cardarine sodium. So I don't know, I wouldn't start there. I would slowly build your way up, and then at the first sign of trouble, first sign of side effects, paralysis of the digestion or bloating or gas or digestive issues, just back off and keep the dose there for 2 to 3 weeks before you make a further adjustments, right? Slow and steady adjustments prevent terrible side effects like this. So I've never heard anybody get Allodynia, or however the fuck you pronounce it, from erythrocyte. Haven't heard anybody got Allodynia from anything at all. Unless they were stopping, something like morphine or kratom, something like that. So I'm not familiar with this side effect. So you tell me if stopping the dose solves it, or stopping the erythrocyte for a while solves it. Morphix86 asks, hey Steve, why is it always Test and Primo? What will happen if I add Test, Masteron, Deca, Primo, and Tren, but a little dose to get the same weekly milligrams for Test and Primo? Only, for example, just a thought. I don't know. I mean, I've done both. 500 Test, 500 Primo, and then 300 Test, or let's say 150 Test, 150 Primo, 300 Masteron, 50 Deca, and 50 Tren. Is that 1,000 milligrams? I mean, you throw more compounds in there, you probably get more synergy between all of them. The Masteron would prevent the water retention from the Deca, but the Tren might make your skin a little bit thicker. It's hard to see how you would look cosmetically, but you might be a little bit bigger. If you do, let's say, 200 Test, 200 Primo, that's 400, 300 Masteron, that's 700, and then we have 300 left to play with, 150 Deca, 150 Tren. It could work. It's a lot of Tren, though. I would do a little bit more tests and less Tren, maybe 25 milligrams per week. But everybody will tell you that you're crazy. So just tell them that you're on 300 so they can relate to you more. But in reality, you just run a low and effective dose of 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams and rely more on the test than the Primo. Anyway, you can design the cycle however you want. But I would say if you run a gram of Test and Primo or a gram of Test, Mast, Deca, Primo, and Tren, then you probably get a better effect from the latter cycle. And depending on how you adjust the dosages between each compound, you might look cosmetically better or worse, right? If you do 700 milligrams of Deca and fill in the rest with the Masteron, the Primo, the Test, and the Tren, you might be a little bit bloated, bro. So, up to you. Noxiu asks, 3 months after stem cell treatment to reattach partially torn rotator cuff tendons, is it counterproductive to run a low-dose Test and Anavar cycle, currently off everything? I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it's 3 months after stem cells, so Test and Anavar will help you get your strength back, improve the recovery. The Anavar will improve collagen synthesis in that area, and if you take it slow and build your way up regarding the strength and the intensity and keep doing some massage therapy, of course, if you had stem cell treatment, there might be some scar tissue in that area from the injections. And I would do maybe an MRI on your partially torn rotator cuff first to see how much it's recovered before you really go hard. And 3 months after the stem cell treatment should be long enough to really see a dramatic difference, right? An ultrasound or an MRI, I'm not entirely sure if a stem cell treatment would be enough to reattach a partially torn rotator cuff compared to actual surgery. And did you do PRP? Did you do BPC? Did you do TB500? Did you do GHK copper? Right? I got all that ready for my gyno surgery. So don't worry, I will document that here. So yeah, I would say yes, but maybe do some diagnostics before you really go hard. London McKenna asks, of all of your research, what is a PED that you've changed your mind on or view on? I would say Mint and YK-11, even though I ran them at the same time. That cycle of 500 tests, 500, what was it, 500? Man, it's been a while. I already forgot. I think it was 500 tests. Yeah, it was 500 tests, 500 Deca, 150 Mint, and YK-11 and Anadrol. Of course, it was all stacked together. But honestly, dude, I like that cycle, and I would have continued that cycle if I didn't have major digestive issues, which I think now might be related to the chia seeds, which is weird because I couldn't find anything about chia seeds allergy that was conclusive. I mean, it can be occurring because I just broke fast with salmon, salt, and chia seeds. Doesn't feel good. I don't think it's a salmon though. So next time, tomorrow when I eat something, well, tomorrow will probably be some sushi, so it'll be rice and too many variables. But next week when I eat, or I might fast for another week and then eat, break fast again with salmon, I will exclude the chia seeds because that might be the culprit. But again, I will do a food allergy test tomorrow to kind of confirm what's going on. And anyway, so that cycle of Mint and YK-11 was absolutely great. And I will definitely add Mint solo to a stack of Test and Primo or Test and Deca in the future after the gyno surgery. And YK-11, albeit injectable form, so I can kind of compare how oral YK-11 compares to injectable Follistatin 344 and injectable YK-11, and then draw my final conclusions. But again, I was not against Mint. I just felt that the scientific evidence was very thin, and I was not against YK-11 because it's a steroidal SARM. And scientific evidence is even paper thin compared to Mint, which is already thin in scientific evidence. But both gave me good results, albeit that I'm not entirely sure where the results came from because I ran both of them at the same time. That being said, I like Mint in combination with YK-11. I will do additional research and run them in solo settings in the future going forward because the results were good. Nox U asks, when taking methylene blue, how do I avoid blue Smurf tongue? Blue Smurf tongue. Well, you drink it with a straw. So you dissolve it in water, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, and then you drink it with a straw and wash it all down and then brush your teeth. That's what I do 4 to 5 times per week when I take methylene blue in the morning. All right. Blue collar bodybuilding. Hey man, did mom send any Dutch candies, aka Cuban cigars this year? No, I still have a lot. Even though I just finished 8 of them when I'm in my trip to New Zealand, I still have 20 Cuban cigars. So I got some Dutch candies Dutch candies as in stroopwafels or MDMA. I'm not sure what you're implying. I would never have my mom send me MDMA over the mail, and that chapter of my life has been closed, allegedly, even though the shirt says otherwise. So, yes, I got some stroopwafels. The last time my mom sent me a package of Cuban cigars, and I got some stroopwafels in New Zealand because it has a very big Dutch community, and I found a shop that sold some Dutch stuff. So I got some licorice and stroopwafels, which actually absolutely tore a hole in my stomach. But yeah, it was worth it. Totally worth it. All right, let's scroll down a little bit to some member questions and super chats. Because again, we go with the super chats first. Vinny Sotile, if pieces of rubber stopper on the bottom of the vial, if they manifest, I guess, do you have to toss it or can you just be careful drawing? I would not toss it because, again, if you flip the vial upside down, the oil will touch the rubber stopper anyway. So whether it's touching the rubber stopper in the form of a broken off piece or the rubber stopper when you flip the vial upside down, I don't think that really matters. Again, you have silicone stoppers nowadays that are a little bit safer, I would say, than rubber stoppers. They tend to break off less. But yes, it happens. And if that happens, then make sure you draw with a smaller needle gauge so the rubber stopper doesn't end up in your syringe. And every time you before you inject the syringe of the oil to make sure that there's no rubber stopper in there that could potentially be injected and that will never be metabolized out of your body. That being said, I've had this happen a couple times to me when I was using vials, and I would just draw it empty and inject. Because why waste gear when you don't have to? So yeah, but proceed with caution. Make sure you don't inject any particles of the rubber stopper. And again, I made a deep dive about that, about injecting glass particles. That can also manifest when you crack open ampules and you can't even see those glass particles. So yeah, that's another risk. Anyway, you're never safe when using gear. Zaya, how do you eat your chia seeds? So I just add a tablespoon to each meal. But when you have 5 meals per day, you have 5 tablespoons. And yeah, then of course, when you eat chia seeds 5 tablespoons per day for a decade, you might develop a food allergy. It could be the eggs also, right? For breakfast, I have a boatload of eggs and chia seeds, and sometimes a little bit of ketchup when I feel naughty. And then the issues start to manifest, and then later in the day, I have more chia seeds, and then sometimes I add a little bit of eggs to my last meal. So is it the chia seeds? Is it the magnesium that I have with every meal? When I went to New Zealand, I stopped taking all of my supplements. I was still bloated as fuck, but I was eating like an asshole again, eating freely the seafood diet. I saw food and I ate it. It was great, even though I was majorly bloated the entire time I was there. That's why I had to pull so many pictures, or I couldn't show so many pictures because my stomach literally looked like, Palumboism. And then after 2 days of fasting, I could pull the vacuum again. Right, so it's all intestinal inflammation. So I didn't eat any chia seeds on holiday, but it could just be one of the foods that sets off my stomach that I now need to avoid for a certain period of time. That's why we're doing a food allergy test. Hopefully, it will be comprehensive and gives me a little bit of a timeline on when or how long to avoid certain foods. Steve did blood work. You did or I did? I will do that tomorrow. So I guess you did it. Steve, I did blood work. Free T3 came back at 8 picograms per milliliter and range from 2 to 8 or 2 to 4.4 picograms per milliliter. Lab error. No, it can happen. Can happen. Maybe your thyroid binding globulin levels are low. I was taking Suppository GC1 until 3 days before the labs. Thyroid stimulating hormone came back low. Free T4, middle of the range. So it could be that the GC1, the Suppository, was interacting with the thyroid receptors and blocking T3 from attaching to the receptors. Hence, free T3 levels were so high. That could be a case, right? Even though it's been 3 days since you took the Suppository, I don't think that the half-life has really been established. So maybe you're still interacting with the thyroid receptors and preventing T3 from actually binding to the thyroid receptors, increasing serum concentrations. Or it could be that you're on growth hormone converting a lot of T4 into T3. Hence, your T3 levels are reasonably low or normal compared to your free T. Your T4 levels are reasonably low compared to your free T3 levels. Or your thyroid binding globulins are so low because you're on copious amounts of steroids, which are known to lower your thyroid binding globulin levels. So we need a little bit of the total picture here. Hey, Steve, I saw your 5-day fasting mimicking diet. You ate vegetables, but I really can't stomach that. Any other multiple days fasting protocols you can recommend? Don't eat anything. Vegetables are the only thing that are really fasting approved, or you can do a fasting mimicking diet where you eat a little bit of protein. But the reason why I add vegetables is to have a little bit of fiber in your diet and clean up all the bile acids that you're excreting. And if you're not eating any vegetables or fiber, then you're just reabsorbing all of those bile acids with all of the toxins and the cholesterol and whatever else in the enterohepatic recirculation. So if you can't stand vegetables, maybe twice per day, you mix a little bit of senna tea with psyllium husk fiber or acacia gum fiber or whatever fiber you can stomach, and drink that in the morning and evening to have a little bit of a plunger-like effect where the fiber is getting pulled through, being stimulated by the, what is it called? Geez, I just said it. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Totally blanked on that. Senna tea. Jesus fucking Christ. So you have one tea bag of senna tea or a couple leaves, and then you let that sit for 20 minutes, and you mix in the fiber source. You drink that twice per day, morning and evening, and it kind of pulls everything through and out. If you can't stand the vegetables, but you can also use the vegetables and let your your colon kind of squeeze that through. So whatever you prefer, and otherwise you don't have anything. That's what fasting is about. I kind of raw dogged this fast over the last 3.5 days. I wanted to go until tomorrow, but I couldn't go anymore today. My stomach was literally eating itself from the inside. So no fat burners, no Reta too tight. I just raw dogged it, reintroduced a couple supplements that I thought were not going to upset my digestion, which happily up until today that I took salmon and chia seeds, everything was going well. I had a pickle today early morning to kind of see how it would respond. That went well, and then the rest of the time I just raw dogged it, but I barely went to the bathroom because the enterohepatic recirculation just reabsorbs all the bile acid. So even though I didn't eat any food, I don't think I detoxified much because, well, I barely went to the bathroom because I didn't have any vegetables or fiber. Yeah, just some supplements. That's not really enough to detoxify. Jason Reed, thanks, man. Yeah, I feel like a burning sensation in the arms and legs. I've seen the data. It was in 4% of the patients. I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. Okay, so he's talking about the sensation of pain from the retrotutide. Okay, apparently that can happen. I wasn't aware. But I haven't done my retrotutide deep dive yet, so stay tuned. How long is Tren A suppressive? At a dose of 70 milligrams, some say even with a half-life of 3 days, it is suppressive for over a year. We'll do post-psychotherapy, no cruise. So the metabolites of trebolone acetate are detectable for up to 5 months. Whether those metabolites are suppressive, I'm not entirely sure. I think the half-life of 3 days, if you do 3 times the half-life, will be 15 days, right? Times 5, yeah, 15 days. But, you know, I would stop the Tren Ace and then maybe run TRT for about a month or maybe 2 months until you feel kind of normal on TRT, that is, because, you know, the effects of trenbolone can be longer lasting, and before you feel normal dopamine levels, it could be further ahead. So if you do a PCT, I would stop the Tren Ace, stay on TRT for about a month, and then start your post-psychotherapy about 4 to 6 weeks after stopping the TRT, which is about 2 months after stopping the Tren Ace, and then you should be okay. From a PCT perspective, regarding the dopaminergic signaling, you might not be okay, and libido might be low, and motivation might be low, unless you really go ham on the L-tyrosine. All right, so all those things you have to think about. Samurai Style TV, you mentioned pitting joints of steel sub-Q. How do you deal with the post-injection swelling? I got none of that. It went in smooth as butter. Or you just live with it for the weeks. Cheers, coach. Okay, so if you got issues with post-injection swelling, maybe go intramuscularly, or maybe you got a bad batch. Maybe you need to contact MA, the source. So I'm still not sure if we can talk about it here on YouTube because I don't want to get banned again, even though I didn't get any explanation of why I was banned from YouTube for 4 days. So I'm not entirely sure, but MA sells joints of steel. I didn't get any post-injection pain injecting sub-Q. I never injected it intra-articularly or intramuscularly. So it could be a batch thing, or maybe use an individual. Maybe a couple days you need to pin it intramuscularly and see what happens. If you still get post-injection pain, maybe contact MA to see if that's a common occurrence with the latest batch. And if that's not a common occurrence, it might be you, and you might need to switch to a different product. Because I got terrible post-injection pain from injecting Pentosan Gold from a veterinary source. I did it twice. It offered some joint lubrication and joint benefits, but the post-injection pain sub-Q and intramuscular was so bad that I threw it away after 2 injections. So, yeah, everybody's different and everybody responds differently to products. Lucas, what are your thoughts on modafinil? It was recommended on the libido video and you used to take 50 milligrams daily. Anything changed? I haven't taken it in a long time, and the last time I reintroduced 50 milligrams of modafinil, it gave me a headache. So I gave it away. But I still have 1 strip laying around at home and just for a rainy day, but I don't really use it anymore. So yeah, modafinil might increase serotonergic and dopaminergic signaling and does improve libido if you stack it with some Axe and oxytocin and DHEA and pregnenolone, and getting your neurosteroid levels up to match your sex hormone levels. But yeah, it's something you can look into. I haven't used it in a long time, and I haven't recommended it in a long time. Usually Semax and oxytocin intranasally gets the job done. If the neurosteroid and sex hormone levels are perfectly balanced and you're eating enough food and you're in a low stress environment, because it doesn't matter how much hormones and peptides and compounds you throw at it. If you're highly stressed and not eating enough, doesn't matter what you do, libido will not be favorable, unfortunately. Mike Freeman, Happy New Year, guy. How is your YK deep dive going along? I'm working on it. It will be done when it's done. You mentioned you did 30 milligrams daily. Did you increase the dose gradually? I just went straight to 30 milligrams sublingually. How long did you run it for? 7 weeks I ran it, which is pretty long. And I think I didn't get most of the commonly occurring side effects because I was on a hefty dose of testosterone, Ment, and Anadrol, which potentiate a good amount of water retention. And my estrogen levels were, well, let's say around 100, maybe higher picograms per milliliter at certain times. So I didn't get most of the commonly occurring side effects of dry joints and joint pain or tendon pain. And that's how I was able to persist. I wanted to run it for 4 weeks, but the gains were too good to stop. So I ran it for 7 weeks. And my liver enzymes didn't really go up. And I didn't really get any side effects besides just feeling absolutely fucking swole. And I ended up at 120 kilos. Now I'm about 110 after fasting for a week. Not as big as before, but still good. Even though I'm 110 kilos, it's a little bit chunky. So let's say I'm 105 kilos after taking the Anadrol and the YK-11 out. But yeah, I gained a little bit of fluff on holiday. It is what it is. I'll get it off. I'll run it again in the future, and then I'll probably do 20 milligrams injectable intramuscularly at the site of where I want it to work, pre-workout. And then see how much of an effect I will get. And then I will intermix some Follistatin 344, which I'm stocking up right now, to really bring up my legs. Because I did 1 milligram administration of Follistatin 344, I could swear that my legs grow an inch. Or at least that's what it felt like. I did it in the upper quads with Increlex on the side, 1 milligram, 500 microgram each, right? And then 500 microgram Follistatin 344 left to right. Man, that's the most intense contraction and leg workout I've had in a very long time. Yeah, good shit. But Follistatin 344 is significantly more expensive than YK-11. So maybe you do YK-11 as the foundation to increase your Follistatin levels. And then once per week on lagging body parts, you just shoot a whole vial of Follistatin 344. Working on the protocol. But right now I'm kind of taking it easy, cruising in preparation for the gyno protocol or for the gyno surgery. So once I come to a conclusion on the protocol, I will stack that together in a video probably about how to improve weaker body parts. Again, it will take a while. So these videos take some time to develop, so it's done when it's done. Iron, running 20 milligrams per day. Trenbolone is part of a current bulking stack for past 2 months. Last 2 weeks, having trouble falling asleep, panic attack like mushrooms. I never had a panic attack on mushrooms, but maybe my mental fortitude is better. Any thoughts? Again, if you're getting side effects, drop the dose or take it out. It's that simple. Or you can, throw the kitchen sink of drugs at it, right? The Valium or the Tramadol or what is it called? Seroquel, whatever you need to get the panic attacks under control and get your sleep quality under control, even though it's not really sleep quality, you're just falling asleep, but not really sleeping in a qualitative state. Personally, I would reduce the Tren. If you can't deal with it, reduce the dose or take it out. That is the healthy, sustainable, and responsible way to go about it. Any reasons for YK-11 to impact sleep if taken pre-bed? I took it pre-bed. It didn't affect my sleep. But if you feel that it's affecting your sleep, take it in the morning for a week. Again, you're combining it with Trenbolone probably. So is it the Trenbolone affecting your sleep or the YK-11? Maybe 1 week you take the YK-11 in the morning or pre-workout to let that metabolize by the time you go to bed. If that doesn't work, take it out. If that makes a difference, then it's the YK-11. If that doesn't work, take the Tren out. And then if that did work and you're sleeping better, reintroduce the YK-11 and you're going through the roller coaster of experimentation until you figure it out. And you give everything a couple days to a week to really set in. At what level of hematocrit or blood cell count would you consider blood donations? Depends on how your platelets are looking, how your your hemoglobin is looking, how your serum iron is looking. Because if you're on telmisartan or methylene blue, your red blood cell count and hematocrit should not really go up much unless you're dehydrated when you go in for blood work. Or you have sleep apnea or both, right? You have sleep apnea and you go in dehydrated even though you're on telmisartan and methylene blue. Man, I haven't talked this much for a very long time, and then today all the consultations took place. So already a little bit of raspy voice. So again, if you're hydrated, if you don't have sleep apnea, at a hematocrit of about 56, if your serum iron is middle top of the reference range and your hemoglobin is increased, then I would consider donating. And if it's 56 but everything else is normal, then maybe add in the telmisartan or methylene blue or enalapril as another method to get your hematocrit under control. Because when you're donating blood, you're not just taking out the red blood cells and reducing your hematocrit, you're also taking out, blood that contains a lot of other nutrients that you might need. So frequent blood donations are not as good for your body as controlling your hematocrit with hydration, getting your sleep apnea under control, and perhaps taking telmisartan, enalapril, or methylene blue to get that down through an alternative route. Would you take methylene blue long term? Yeah, all the research that I've done so far, it seems very promising. So I've been taking it for a couple months now. I've talked to people who've taken methylene blue for years with no real adverse effects. So I continue to take it. And again, the methylene blue deep dive eventually will drop, but first I got to get that deep dive on how to get your partner pregnant, because that's way more fun to produce right now. Hey Steve, if I'm using 50 milligrams oxymetholone only 2 times per week pre-tanning on leg days, how sustainable would you say that is, assuming labs remain solid? Well, if labs remain solid and your appetite remains solid, I don't have a problem with running that for 2 months to 3 months. That's me, right? If your liver enzymes don't budge or barely budge, if your lipids don't budge or barely budge, your appetite doesn't budge or barely budges, you can still eat, right? I'm assuming you're taking this to grow, and in order to grow, you need to eat. So if you can eat and your labs are good and your blood pressure is in range, you don't get bloated, you don't get gyno, you don't get moon face, you don't get hair loss, by all means, run it throughout your entire cycle. At the first hint of trouble, you stop. It's that simple. And depending on how much you live the lifestyle, you could run these drugs longer than the people who don't run the lifestyle, because they eat hamburgers all the time and they, pop Anadrol twice per week, but they don't do anything for the blood pressure. They're maybe magnesium deficient. Right? They get all the side effects that you would expect from 700 milligrams Anadrol per week, even though they run 100 milligrams Anadrol per week, because they don't do everything else that they need to be doing to stay healthy. So I just ran 200 milligrams Anadrol per week for 7 weeks, and I was fine. Besides the bloating, but that's food related, not drug related. Anabolic Leo 31 just recently increased testosterone cypionate from 200 milligrams to 375 milligrams. Holy moly, what a bump! Almost 200%. Still not a cycle. When should I expect to feel the increase when it comes to strength and body composition? Well, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, give or take. That takes about that time before serum levels start to really plateau on testosterone cypionate. 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Yeah, and then the strength and body composition kind of depends on your diet. I hate to say it, but right, if you're not eating right, you're not eating enough protein, you're not training correctly, then nothing is going to happen, no matter how much testosterone you take. But assuming you do everything right, 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, not the drugs, it's the lifestyle. Since keto and low carb diets and keeping blood glucose. All right, let me read this in a different way. DB Tuned asks, since ketogenic dieting and low carb diets and keeping blood sugar levels down raises SHBG, would using insulin while eating a moderate carb diet have a similar effect on SHBG? No, because insulin lowers SHBG, and growth hormone lowers SHBG, whereas thyroid hormones increase SHBG. And it's very difficult to say if you'll get a similar effect from your low insulin, because it's the insulin that lowers SHBG. So if you don't have much insulin on ketogenic diet or low carb diet, then that's how SHBG goes up. It's not the carbs, it's the insulin. Right? Okay, so I hope it makes sense. Let's see. Joshua Damasino asks, only 420 milligrams testosterone NFA a week, not currently on growth hormone. Came off growth hormone around 2 months ago. Not sure if that helps. Should I discontinue GC1? Was going to continue to finish the fuck. I already forgot what you asked the previous time. Guys, I don't fucking remember because I get so many questions. So you can do follow-up stuff, but I already lost the plot, so I don't even. I'm not gonna scroll up. All right, they're asking about thyroid. Just discontinue the GC1 and then retest your thyroid hormones in a couple days or maybe 2 weeks, and then see if free T3 is still elevated. And again, 420 milligrams testosterone anthate should not be that much of a dramatic reduction in your thyroid binding globulin levels, not on growth hormone. So just discontinue the GC1. Then again, a free thyroid of this high without knowing your total T3 levels or T4 levels is your thyroid stimulating hormone is still in range. So maybe finish your cut, continue with the GC1 and check it again. Maybe it's a one-off. All right. Maybe it's a one-off. Alvaro JD, what's up, bro? Hey, Steve, let's say you use 6IU's growth hormone maximizes my serum IGF-1 levels. Is it still worth using more growth hormone, let's say around 10 to 12 IUs per day? Yes, because the gains are not solely coming from IGF-1, but of course, IGF-1 is a very highly contributing factor. But if you're on 10 to 12 IUs of growth hormone per day, I would also assume that you're on at least, a gram, 2 grams a gear. So let's say you're on a gram a gear of 6 IUs of growth hormone and your serum IGF-1 levels are maximized and you want to double that to 12 IUs of growth hormone, I would also double my steroid intake to get a synergistic effect. Maybe let your estradiol levels come up a little bit to squeeze out a little bit more IGF-1, even though my IGF-1 levels didn't really budge, by doubling my serum estradiol levels on the latest cycle. And I was running 10 IUs to 20 IUs 4 times per week, 2 times on 10 IUs and 2 times on 20 IUs per day, but it was generic. So, how much that translates into similar effects of pharmaceutical growth hormone. Serum levels were comparable, though, on a 10 IU shot, but there's more to growth hormone than simply the growth hormone. There's also other ingredients which might have an overlapping and beneficial effect on the delivery mechanism and the effects. That's why everybody swears by Serostim. Did you get sweet, dry gains and all the volume or all the water is in the muscle? Whereas with generics, you hold water. Even though the latest generics from BP were not as good as the TP. The water retention on BP. I wish there wasn't no censorship here, man. I can just say what I want, but I can't. I don't want to risk banning my channel. So, on the underground lab, abbreviated to BP, the water retention was less, but the serum levels on our growth hormone tests were not as high as on the TP, the underground lab abbreviated to TP, that I was running previously, even though the water retention was more. So, it was disproportionately more water retention compared to the serum results that I got from a 10 IU intramuscular shot 2.5 hours before drawing blood. Man, you need a fucking subtitles to deal with this shit. Lucas, do you feel a difference between, let's say, 200 milligrams a test versus 400 milligrams a test? Yeah, man, I'm like a lot stronger. So, 200 test is barely cutting it. The 400 test is, having a lot more fun in the gym and feeling more pumped. It's the same as asking, do you feel a difference between 2 IUs growth hormone and 4 IUs growth hormone? You're doubling your dose. So, of course, you're going to feel a difference. But if you're unexperienced, you might not notice it. I notice it. I notice a big difference. Anabolic Leo asks, also 200 milligrams test a week was about the highest I could go without an AI. What would be a good dosage of aromasin a week on 375 milligrams test to stay optimal E2? I don't know, 12.5 milligrams twice per week, but do your blood work 4 weeks into it. And we start with aromasin, and then you kind of prove your point by doing blood work. So if you already know that 200 tests will give you top of the line estradiol levels, then you probably double your estradiol levels to, let's say, 80 picograms per milliliter, which is gynecomastia territory for most guys, by doubling your testosterone. So you might need 12.5 milligrams aromasin twice per week, 1 tablet of aromasin over the week, to keep your estradiol levels in range. And then you take 12.5 milligrams twice per week on injection days. So you shoot up, let's say, well, unless you do daily micro administrations, then I would still do 2 administrations of aromasin per week because the half-life is approximately 5 days. So you get an overlapping effect anyway of bi-weekly administrations. But again, prove that with blood work, man. And then adjust further. Maybe you need 6.25 milligrams of aromasin Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times per week. A slight reduction, but increasing the frequency. You know? So blood work and adjust from there. It's that simple. That's how we do the shit. Jed Weaver, Steve, glad you got your YouTube back. Biggest goal of the year. Biggest goal of my year. Become a father and deal with it. You know, that's my only last goal. I'm buying a bigger house, but I mean, that's just an issue of money. And that's not really an issue. With cryptocurrency being nice and high right now. So the biggest goal is seeing my daughter get born and being a good dad. And that's all I really care about. One of mine is to meet you. Come to Thailand and come to the gym. Shoot me a message. I'm usually there at 9 o'clock in the evening. So, but I mean, it shouldn't be a goal of yours, man. Just focus on something more interesting than meeting me. I'm not that much of an interesting guy. And if you meet me, it's like 5 to 10 minutes at the gym. I mean, you don't want to fly to Thailand just for that. Otherwise, meet me at Arnold Classic or the Mr. Olympia or something like that. 30-year-old gear. Okay, I guess I'm losing something. Billy Bake, alkaline phosphatase 230, twice out of the reference range. AST and gamma GT is okay. Taking 110 tests, 300 HCG every other day, 25 milligrams Anavar every day, 100 milligrams T4. MK677. Why is alkaline phosphatase so high? Maybe you have a microfracture. So there's a bone-specific alkaline phosphatase you can check for. I would check for that. And then maybe you have a microfracture somewhere, which is why your bone-specific alkaline phosphatase, which is now detecting a non-specific alkaline phosphatase testing that you did. And that's why it's twice out of the reference range. Like alkaline phosphatase has to do with your bones. If it's low, it probably means that you don't have so much bone metabolism. But right now, if you have a microfracture, you'll have a lot of bone metabolism. And that means that your alkaline phosphatase levels are high because, again, alkaline phosphatase is metabolized in the liver. If you have liver issues, then alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT and the AST and AST and ALT liver enzymes will be elevated, or bilirubin levels will be elevated, or albumin, right? Those might all be elevated. But if you have one marker elevated, then it's probably not the liver. It's where these enzymes are coming from. And in this case, it could be coming from the bones. So if you had somebody kicked you in the shin, or you have pain here in your forearms when doing bicep curls, there might be a microfracture or some strain in your bones somewhere, and that's why your bone-specific alkaline phosphatase levels are going up. You can determine this with blood work. And then rest. And maybe increase your zinc, magnesium, calcium intake alongside vitamin D3 and vitamin K to shuttle all those minerals into bones and help with the recovery process. Adding some growth hormone to that will help also. Robke. Okay. Having low testosterone, prescribed Nebido by doc. Should I ask for Testosterone and sub-Q it or use the Nebido? I'm 30 years old, from the EU, no access to test E or test SIP. Unless you know reputable sites, send me an email or go to my website. It's all there. All the information is there regarding those kinds of questions. It's one of the top articles, right? And maybe I shouldn't even say that because I could risk losing my channel again, but it's already said so. Now it's out there, right? If you have questions about that, just go to my website. It's linked down below. You could do Nebido shots twice a week, man. Half a cc Monday, Friday, or 1 cc once a week, or microdose your Nebido. It doesn't really matter. I would just do more frequent injections than one shot every 12 weeks. So if you can do 1 cc per week, so you have your Nebido, you transfer that to 4 1 cc syringes, or you transfer that to a sterile vial and then draw what you need for the injection. If you can self-administer, then Nebido is fine. I'd rather go with Nebido over cysteine because all the cysteine is produced in arachi's oil, which is refined peanut oil, which could be inflammatory to some people. Whereas Nebido is always produced in castor oil, and castor oil might cause post-injection pain, but is not known to increase inflammatory markers. So in that sense, I would prefer more frequent injections of Nebido over cysteine, but it depends on if they administer it for you or not. I would just tell them that you want to do it yourself. You don't want to come into the clinic every couple of weeks. You'll just negotiate with them that you do it yourself, and otherwise source your shit online, man. There's plenty of places where I point you in the right direction. DB Tune, Steve, what are your thoughts on Primo plus Debol cycle plus Primo plus estrogen? This is reinventing the wheel. I don't even want to talk about it. No. No. If you're going to inject, just use Test and Primo, man. No. A lot of difference between recombinant HCG and usual HCG. Any other places to buy it besides what is on the blog? I don't know. If it's reputable, it's on the blog. I explain all the differences in the HCG deep dive, and I guess you didn't watch it, so I will take your money and refer you to the HCG deep dive. You're welcome. I need a shirt like Steve. You can buy it on the Japanese resale websites. Let's see. Anabolic Leo also asks, serum iron usually at higher end of the reference range or just over, but ferritin low end of normal. Red blood cell count is 5.3, hematocrit is 50, hemoglobin is 6.8. That's totally fine. That's not high. I don't know what reference range you're looking into, unless it's for a female reference range, but this is totally normal, man. You don't need to donate. Go to a non-discriminatory reference range that leans you towards becoming anemic. The fuck? Hey, Steve, have you seen any research on selective estrogen beta agonists? Interested where Sturba plus AI could replace serums for PCT. Selective estrogen beta agonists. You mean like testosterone and ecdysterone? Serba. Never heard of that and never done any research on it. So I'm sorry, I don't know. I do not know. Brian Tweer sends money, and here's his question. Steve, running test for Primo EQ currently. Would adding in YK-11 to the stack or replace EQ with it? Any synergy between these combos? I've only used YK-11 once, and the scientific evidence is literally 4 papers. So add it in and let us know, man. I don't know. I ran it with tests, Deca and Ment and Anadrol, and I fucking loved it. I was strong. I was full. I had great stamina in the gym, but I have not ran it with Test Primo and EQ. I would say that Test Primo and EQ would lower your estrogen levels, and then since YK-11 is known to dry out the joints and give low estrogen symptoms or symptoms similar to Winstrol, you might be in for a world of pain where you get very dry joints and everything becomes tight and I don't know, Winstrol-like. So if you have some experience with Winstrol, you can expect similar side effects. This is what's well documented on Reddit. But I did not experience those side effects because I was on a hefty dose of Deca and Ment, which is very lubricating for the joint. So I would check your serum estradiol levels first. And then if your estradiol is low, I would bring it at least to the top of the reference range to get a little bit more padding on the joints. And then by increasing your test to Primo and EQ ratio, so maybe for example, 500 test, 200 Primo, and 300 EQ, as an example, right? But that's probably already keeping your estradiol levels low. You could throw in some HCG to bring your estradiol levels up. Yeah, or you take the EQ out and do like 700 test, 300 Primo, and then YK-11, and get some effects there. But I don't know. You might be able to get 4 weeks to 8 weeks out of it. I got 7 weeks out of it without much issues, but I was, again, on a different stack than you. So throw it in at 30 milligrams per day and let us know. Anton, hey, yo, 30 years old, added growth hormone, 4 use daily, AM, PM for 2 blood work for 2 weeks. Added in 4 use growth hormone for 2 weeks. Blood work came back weird. IGF-1 levels went from 128 to 118 nanograms per milliliter. How is that possible? That seems like a normal fluctuation on blood work, and maybe your growth hormone that you were taking was not real. GH is Serostim from the link mentioned on your website. Okay, so that should be real then. Maybe you don't respond, man. Did you gain any water? Did you gain any size? Did you do a serum growth hormone test? Maybe next time you're going for blood work, instead of checking your IGF-1 levels, you check your serum growth hormone levels. Right? You inject 10 IU's Serostim intramuscularly, preferably in the shoulders. That's the best absorption for water-based compounds. 2.5 hours before drawing blood for analysis, you check your serum growth hormone levels, and it should be between 32 to 34, maybe even 36 nanograms per milliliter. Maybe you don't produce much IGF-1. Could be the case, right? Chase Irons doesn't produce much IGF-1 either. When I started ramping up the dosages of growth hormone, my IGF-1 levels started ramping up in combination with Increlex. And even then, without the Increlex, it's not as high as with the Increlex, obviously. So again, IGF-1 is not a true indication of your growth hormone levels. I would check your serum growth hormone levels after doing an intramuscular shot of 10 IUs 2.5 hours later instead. If it's from the website, then it's real. Otherwise, I won't rep it. It was damaged in transport, but then it's probably cloudy and you would be able to see it. Drew, do you have a question? I just wanted to send some money to show your thick avatar. Well, I don't see a question. So I'm just going to move on. Dwayne, no. Can you explain if coming off Masteron high dose after a decent cycle will result in estrogen rebound or not? Yeah, it could be. Again, not everybody gets estrogen suppression apparently from Masteron. So if you got estrogen suppression from Masteron, then obviously coming off by preventing the blockade of the aromatase enzyme by taking the Masteron out and the metabolites that might do the similar effect out as it's metabolizing, all of the aromatase enzymes that are now not being blocked by Masteron or the metabolites will be allowed to aromatize testosterone into estradiol. And you would get a similar effect from taking the Primo out, or similar effect from taking the EQ, the equipoise tabaldenone out, or Proviron out, or aromatase inhibitors out. All right, so this is why it's good to keep doing your blood work and see what goes on in your body. And if you see a hint of estrogen rebound, you add something in to prevent the aromatization of testosterone into estradiol. And again, there could be Primobolan, could be equipoise, could be Proviron, could be aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex, anastrozole, or letrozole, or maybe things that lower aromatase enzyme expression like growth hormone at higher dosages, or metformin, or Cialis has been shown to lower estradiol levels, diethylmethane to promote the conversion of estradiol into estrone, which can reduce the burden of estradiol or promote the excretion of estradiol and phytoestrogens in the form of calcium D-glucarate. I explain all of this in so many videos about managing estradiol levels. Just search the channel and you have an amazing weekend watching all those videos. Mr. Water, finally pulled the trigger, just bought my airline ticket moving to Bangkok in May. All right, see you at the gym, bro. If you arrive in May, it's going to be fucking hot. Like fucking hot. Like absolutely fucking hot. It's probably the worst time to come to Thailand. So yeah, make sure you have plenty of those tank tops and none of this. It's too hot for that in May. See you at the gym, dripping sweat. Jez B, YK-11 is no joke. Fuck, it's so funny, right? I talk about Tren, everybody's on Tren. I talk about YK-11, everybody's on YK-11. What will I talk about next? And then everybody's going to follow suit. That's, I guess, the curse of an influencer, right? I just wanted to share my experience, not incentivize you guys to get started. But I guess I did. Thanks for the super chats. YK-11 is no joke. 50 milligrams sublingually split daily, 7.5 milligrams morning and evening. My mate is asking if I'm back on Superdrol. Yeah, so I feel that YK-11 is similar to Superdrol. The fullness and the hardness and the density is like Superdrol, but you don't feel toxic. Your liver enzymes don't really change. And then depending on what else you're running with it, you might get some joint discomfort, which I did get after 7 weeks, but it was not as bad as the people on Reddit described. But then again, how many people on Reddit got Winstrol for their YK-11, or how many people on Reddit run YK-11 solo, where it suppresses testosterone and estrogen levels, and then you're basically androgen and estrogen deficient, and then you surely get sore joints and dry skin. Getting a bit of acid reflux, indigestion, like you mentioned, though, Steve. Yeah, but that's probably food related. The chia seeds or whatever food allergy that I'm currently dealing with. Not the YK-11, especially if you're taking it sublingually. Even then, it could cause some acid reflux, similar to taking Anavar sublingually. So, right, steroids alter, acid production in the intestinal tract. That's why it's good to have some apple cider vinegar and beta hydrochloride on standby to increase the acidity levels in your stomach, so the mouth of the stomach closes and you get better digestion because of it. 280 people. I think it's a new record. Are we getting 280 likes, though? Do we have 280 likes? That's the New Year's resolutions, guys. More likes. There's 66 likes and 280 people watching. What the hell's going on? That's not a good New Year's resolution. This should be your New Year's resolution. Like Steve's shit more often. And fast. You enter. Why is this banner again? Banners. I don't want this. I don't want this display time. Everybody knows that I'm Steve. What the hell are you doing, StreamYard? All right, where were we? No, man, chat reset. 1 second, guys. Let me find where I was. All right, here we are. There we go. What steroids don't raise blood pressure? I think Masteron doesn't raise blood pressure, but again, that was only studied solo in the context of breast cancer, where women are already estrogen deficient, and a renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system is already different from men. So maybe if you run Masteron or Proviron solo, it doesn't raise your blood pressure, but most steroids, when taken in excess without sufficient amounts of magnesium alongside of that, will raise your blood pressure. But if you take a lot of magnesium over the day, so let's say 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams, maybe even 300 milligrams magnesium with every meal, up to 2,000 milligrams supplemental magnesium over the day, assuming it doesn't give you full-blown diarrhea. And again, that highly depends if you take magnesium citrate or bisglycinate or another version, right? There's a difference between the versions regarding how much diarrhea they cause. So experiment. But yeah, if you take a good amount of steroids without magnesium or blood pressure medication, then your blood pressure will go up. But now that we know about telmisartan and the blood pressure medications and megadosing magnesium, then nobody should suffer through high blood pressure anymore. Really, there's no excuse. I like Deca, but my blood pressure goes up to 150 over 90, even on 125 milligrams Deca per week. I've tried everything to control it. Fasted cardio, electrolytes, diet, estradiol, only 80 milligrams of telmisartan brings it down. Yeah, maybe you have a genetic predisposition to have high blood pressure when you're on Deca. Maybe that runs in your family. Ask your parents what their blood pressure are. Check their blood pressure. Maybe their blood pressure levels are high too, but they never checked it. And if you need 80 milligrams telmisartan, maybe you enalapril or valsartan or lisinopril is a better way for you to keep control of your blood pressure. Maybe you need 5 milligrams Cialis. Maybe you need Nebivolol, right? Cycle through your blood pressure medications. Just because telmisartan seems to be the favorite amongst the fitness industry, if that's not really working for you, or you need a high dose of telmisartan, then maybe you need to switch to another blood pressure medication. There are many. There's so many angiotensin receptor blockers, and there's so many ACE inhibitors, and there's so many alternative blood pressure medications like Cialis, for example. So, right, cycle through them, and then maybe if you take a combination of telmisartan and Cialis, 40 milligrams telmisartan, 5 milligrams Cialis, which lower blood pressure through different mechanisms, then maybe you can bump up the Deca to 500 milligrams per week and make some serious fucking gains. So, or maybe you said you're controlling your electrolytes you take like 200 milligrams of magnesium before bed, and now I told you 200 milligrams with meals, and you're like, hey, light bulb goes off. Maybe I am magnesium deficient, and my arteries aren't very relaxed. Right? That's what magnesium does. It relaxes the arteries so they can dilate. Yes. And then your blood pressure goes down. Fuck, it's cold in here. It's winter in Thailand. It's actually cold. I was freezing in New Zealand. Everybody there is wearing shorts and t-shirts, and I'm like, oh, it's really cold. It's not as cold as the UK, though. Adjust this. All right. There we go. Thanks for the answer, Steve. You know your stuff. Lucas. R. Dollars. Well, I wish it was as many dollars as US dollars, but I guess not. Much appreciated, though. Drone Home Media. I've been taking high-dose melatonin, melatonin through suppository, 200 milligrams. Love the sleep, and I don't feel groggy from it. What are your thoughts on this? Does it feel good when you put it in? Might give it a chance. I've never heard of high-dose melatonin suppositories, but I'm intrigued, so I will do some research. When I take high-dose melatonin, I feel groggy as fuck. And it seems that the older I get, the worse I metabolize it. So I only take it under extreme circumstances now. I went up to 30 milligrams. I felt clinically depressed. And then for a while, I took 10 milligrams per day, and then I didn't feel good. And then I took 5 milligrams per day and didn't feel good after a couple of days. So I only take it when needed, and I don't feel the need to experiment with 100 milligrams per day. Maybe I should once per week, but my sleep is pretty good, man. My sleep quality is really good. I can always sleep. Actually, I sleep too much, probably. Yeah. It helps if you don't have a guilty conscience. All these guys that say they can't sleep, right? You have a lot on your mind. I know. You're masturbating to weird porn, or you're doing bad shit with your life. But when you contribute and you provide and you don't do stupid stuff, then you can always sleep. Really. That should be your New Year's resolution. Remove all the junk from your life so you can sleep. So you don't need to shove melatonin up your butt. Now I'm your god. All right. Is there a question attached to that? Above. Question above. All right. Where is it? 39-year-old, been on TRT and cycles for the last 4 years. Stopped TRT 2 months ago, running HCG in 1,000 IOs daily and HMG 75 IOs daily. Motility and concentration are coming up now, but morphology is still 4%. Could it be that semen I'm testing now is affected by TRT? Yes, because it takes about 3 months for your semen to mature and transport to the seminal vesicles where you can ejaculate it for semen analysis. I think it takes about 60 to 78 days for semen to be produced, and then 9 to 11 days for it to actually transport or swim to the seminal vesicles where you can ejaculate it. So it's been 2 months, right? That you stopped TRT and running HCG. Give it another 4 months, man. Give it another 4 months. And the full protocol will be explained in the How to Get Your Wife Pregnant video. They'll be up shortly, at least this month. Still some more scientific evidence and research to do. But that will contain a full protocol. And by the time that video drops, you have plenty of time to make the adjustments, because you need 6 months after TRT before your fertility parameters are really good. So for now, we'll say inject 1,800 milligrams injectable glutathione over the week to increase your antioxidant status, and supplement with high-dose vitamin C, 5,000 milligrams per day, and then the morphology and the motility will improve faster, because motility and morphology are affected by oxidative stress, and anything over TRT will increase oxidative stress in your body. That's been well established in scientific evidence. But again, that video, when it drops, will have all citations that you would like to have for additional research. Game Theory Optimal. Hey Steve, got my hands on some glucagon. Planning to use it pre-fasted cardio along with CJC, ipamorelin. Any negative interactions you can think of here? No. No, I don't think there's negative interactions because you're doing it before fasted cardio. But CJC, ipamorelin, I would take before bed because it takes forever for your growth hormone levels to come up. So if you take CJC and ipamorelin before fasted cardio, your growth hormone levels will come up after meal one, not during fasted cardio. So I would, if you can afford the glucagon, man, why you're not shooting growth hormone or AOD 9604 or HGH frag for fat loss instead? So finish your CJC and ipamorelin before bed and get yourself some AOD or HGH frag or real growth hormone alongside your glucagon for actual fat loss during fasted cardio, and throw some Mirbic run at it and whatever fat burner you can find, because besides the glucagon, maybe Helios injections will give you some localized fat loss, and really Helios is yohimbine and clenbuterol. It's pretty strong. Maybe throw that in there. But yeah, the CJC and ipamorelin, unless you take it before bed, it's not going to make a difference in the stack. Too bad, but that's the truth. Mason, hey Steve, would it be normal to have moon phase on an estradiol reading of 45 picograms per milliliter, 210 milligrams testosterone per week, 1500 nanograms total testosterone? How to reduce water? Increase your water intake and have stable electrolyte intake. And it doesn't matter how much estradiol or testosterone is. This is a total normal reading for TRT. So I think you're just don't have consistent water intake and electrolyte intake, and your diet is probably all over the place. That's why you have moon phase. Because my estradiol was way higher than yours, and my testosterone levels were way higher than yours, but my electrolyte intake, my water intake, and my diet was stable. That's why I didn't have a moon phase. Yes, I had a fat face, but not a moon phase. That's different. You should have seen my face on a holiday. Actually, just go to my Instagram. That's inconsistent electrolyte, inconsistent water intake, and a shitty diet for 5 days. And look at my face. Fucking fat. It's a diet, not the steroids and the serum estradiol levels. Anabolic Leo, thoughts on long-term Nebido use at 2.5 milligrams per day? I don't think that's enough, man. Oh, Nebivolol, not Nebido. All right. Know your abbreviations. Please write it out. Nebivolol, Nebido abbreviates to the same thing, Neb. Thoughts on long-term Nebivolol use, 2.5 milligrams per day. Could it help with heart palpitations and keep healthy blood pressure? Also helps me in anxiety. Yeah, I used it for years, and then I took it out for a while, and then I used it again on my previous bulk. To keep my heart rate in line and improve my blood pressure and heart health. Heart palpitations you can fix by taking your taurine, 5,000 milligrams per day, 200 milligrams ubiquinol per day, maybe 40 milligrams pryloquinolone, quinone, PQQ per day. Yes, I've pronounced it so many times now that it just rolls off the tongue. Pryloquinolone, quinone, PQQ. 250 milligrams shilajit fulvic acid every time you take ubiquinol to help with ubiquinol absorption. Again, magnesium, potassium, calcium, sodium, all consistent throughout the day. And if you want to lower your anxiety, besides the Nebivolol, look at the Gorillamine Calm. Really works well with the, let's see, the L-theanine and the saffron extract and the ashwagandha root extract. All helps to reduce anxiety. Gorillamine Calm. Look it up. Use my discount code Vigorous. At least that I can mention. It doesn't get your channel terminated. Yeah. On Richard diet, fasting insulin came back less than 0.4. Didn't even give me a measure on a range of, yeah, that's the normal range. Any thoughts? It's, yeah, possible. I've seen it very, very low on GLP-1 receptor agonists, especially if you take, all the carbs out and you follow a ketogenic diet. So my insulin levels are like 1.5, I think. And on Richard's diet is lower. So yeah, it's possible, man. It's possible. So it's a good result. Don't be alarmed. As long as your blood glucose levels are in range while you're taking carbohydrates in, which again, retatrutide through its GLP-1 and GIP action should still produce sufficient amounts of insulin, even though it has some interaction with the glucagon receptor. So you should still have normal blood glucose levels when you do eat carbohydrates on retatrutide. Mr. Water, I did that on purpose. I figured I could handle heat during the first time and be good for any time during the year. Yeah, it would probably be better to come now and build up that tolerance when you come to Thailand. But fuck, man, make a stopover in Dubai so you can sweat buckets over there. If you want brutal heat, Dubai is the place to be in May. Fuck. I was there in May, and June. I did not want to leave the air conditioning. I was staying in an Airbnb inside Dubai Mall, and then I wanted to walk to the Burj Khalifa to go to the restaurant Atmosphere. I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it with a suit. So I walked for 2 minutes, and then I walked back. Then I stood in the air conditioner for 10 minutes waiting for the taxi to take me all around a 15-minute drive, which is a 5-minute walk to the Burj Khalifa. I couldn't do it. I couldn't fucking do it, man. It's too hot wearing a suit. Yeah. Too brutal. All right, let's scroll down a little bit. Man, a lot of people in the chat. Welcome to the Vigorous crew. Kratos, I think you were already a member, right? So you probably just extend it. Welcome back. Onirosis. Hey, Steve, running 600 milligrams test, 300 milligrams Boldenone, Cypionate right now. Enjoy the post-injection pain. Sounds brutal. If I wanted to discount the Boldenone and lower the test to a cruise, would I first drop the Boldenone and run 600 tests for 5 half-lives? No, just drop it, man. It doesn't matter. Because the test is so high that even reducing it to a cruise dose, by the time the Boldenone Cypionate is metabolized, there's still plenty of testosterone cypionate or testosterone in your system for sufficient estradiol. You're still topping up with testosterone during your cruise, so just drop it at the same time. And by the time you reach the 5 weeks, 6 weeks mark, then everything is normal, and you should feel how you would feel on testosterone of the cruise dose, which is more than enough time to kind of slowly get used to a reduction. Yeah. So just drop it at the same time. If you want to get healthy, do it fast. I already clicked that. My bad. Orlando Jr. Happy New Year, Steve. Happy New Year. I've been using Meal Excel 400 milligram cream. After it finishes drying, it leaves a white powdery substance. I have no experience with testosterone cream, so I don't know what that is. Is that testosterone that gets left behind or some other ingredient? Why don't you contact them and ask? Don't ask me. Ask whoever produces this Meal Excel 400 milligrams testosterone cream. So, I don't know. But thanks for the $5. Kratos, let's see, been blasting 21 weeks, HCLs remain 23 nanograms per deciliter, gone from 223 pounds to 230 pounds, week 1 to 11, increased 400 milligrams steroids for growth hormone, for use growth hormone daily, let's see, to 2,240 milligrams steroids, and then I use growth hormone daily with Atlantis, and what else? Been a peak dose just for 9 weeks, maintained and gained another 4 pounds. Thinking about adding one, I use growth hormone and 5% more calories to continue growing. Should I increase steroids or add more? I think adding more food is enough. Your HDL stayed the same, so that's good. But on 200 or 2,240 milligrams steroids, which is mostly Masteron, dude, I would reduce the Masteron and increase the testosterone. Increase the test to a gram and reduce the Masteron to a gram, give or take, and then add 5% more calories, and then increase the testosterone to 1,500 milligrams and reduce the Masteron to 500 milligrams. Yes, well, you look less good cosmetically, but you'll be a lot more anabolic, and you'll get way more out of your food. Because again, there's nothing in the scientific evidence that shows that Masteron is anabolic. It might be anabolic, but I think it's less anabolic than testosterone. So I would switch the ratio, keep track of your serum estradiol levels. If you need an aromatase inhibitor, so be it. Or if you need to add in some Primo to control your estradiol levels. But I would rather run a gram of test and a gram of Primo than 500 tests and 1500 milligrams Masteron. Honestly, but that's me. If it works for you, I mean, you look great. And you're on a boatload of GH and insulin, so I'm sure that's compensating. But yeah, I would just keep increasing the calories until it starts to make you fat. And then once it makes you fat, increase the testosterone, reduce the Masteron, and you'll probably get more anabolism out of that, which increases your muscle mass, and then it reduces your fat mass because your metabolic rate goes up for the same amount of calories that you've been eating. Right, I'm okay with running high Masteron cycles when you want to get leaner in a cutting phase, but during the off season, I would rather rely on test. And more test is still best to build size. Robka, can you remind me? You said I can sub-Q Nebido 1 cc a week as TRT or intramuscular. You can do it sub-Q. Yeah, whatever you prefer, man. Sub-Q is my goal as I've never done intramuscular injections. Yeah, you can do a half a cc sub-Q Nebido Monday, Friday. I mean, I think that will give you very stable levels. Maybe 1 cc Nebido sub-Q once per week would not give you super stable levels, even though, I mean, the half-life of Nebido is like, the testosterone undecanoate is like 34 days because it's in castor oil, and then you might extend that if you go sub-Q, because again, that was determined with intramuscular administrations. But I would still do half a cc twice per week because then the injection volume is lower. And well, if you inject Nebido with an insulin syringe, yeah, it's going to take a while. So I would rather do 2 shots of half a cc sub-Q twice per week than do 1 shot of 1 cc once per week, because then you literally sit there with the insulin syringe 5 minutes before it clears. And again, if you don't have so much experience injecting, I would rather do half cc shots than full cc shots. If someone got Anavar but never got back pump and their liver lab shut up, was it really Winstrol? No, Winstrol would skew your lipids way more than Anavar, so you would definitely notice something. No, belly fat loss had immediate strength gain. Okay, yeah, belly fat loss is mostly related to your diet. Again, steroids are not magic for fat loss unless you are already 6% body fat and you take Anavar and Tren. Then you might see some stellar changes. But again, man, you're probably expecting more than you think, or you're expecting more than you got out of it. But again, Anavar should give you crazy contraction, which is dose dependent. So you get better contractions on 25 milligrams per day compared to 5 milligrams per day, obviously. And it really depends on your level of development. We don't go by side effects, we go by results. So if you checked your lipids and they tanked, then it could be Winstrol. If you got dry joints, then it could be Winstrol. If you suddenly got like some positive water rebalancing from the the lower back or the abs or the edema around your ankles, for example, your fucking calves and forearms got shredded, then it's probably Winstrol. But maybe switch brands or increase the dose. It's your question is too vague for me to really give you a hard answer. And otherwise, send it in for testing. Send it into a Janoschik. And again, that should be YouTube approved because that it helps to keep people healthy, because then they know whether their steroids are legit or not. And if that's against the rules, then I don't know what I'm doing on this platform. Janoschik to stay healthy. Okay? YouTube? Fuck, man. Thank you, Steve. My pleasure. I forgot what I helped you with, but if you're happy, then I'm happy. Hey, Steve. Fuck, man. I'm so sleepy. I'm still struggling with this. Can you tell? Yeah, I'm sure you guys can tell. I'm fucking tired from this trip. I'm still struggling with the time zone difference. I woke up at like 8 o'clock in the morning for no reason. And then I worked for a couple hours. I did a couple consultations. And then I took a nap of 2 hours. And then I just took a hefty 1/2 scoop of Girl Mind Respawn. But I'm not my old self. So I think I'm going to go for another 30 minutes, and then I'm going to throw in a towel because my sleep rhythm is still off. Even though I'm sleeping like 9 hours over the day, I'm not in my usual self. But I also fasted for 4 days, so give me a fucking break. Okay, where are we? Now I'm your god. Asks, thanks, Steve. Do I run 1,200 milligrams glutathione weekly and a good amount of vitamin C, vitamin E, and some NAD plus? Should I wait before do DNA fragmentation? No, you could do that now just to see where you're at, and then throw in this stack of 1,200 milligrams or 1,800 milligrams NAD plus weekly, or a glutathione weekly, and 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day, and let's say 400 IUs of vitamin E per day, and 200 milligrams or 100 milligrams NAD plus IV once weekly alongside your glutathione. Do your DNA fragmentation now. That might be good already. But again, if your DNA has low or the DNA fragmentation of your semen is low, but the morphology and the motility is not good yet, then it doesn't really matter. This DNA is not going to get to the egg because it's just swimming like this, and the shape is not good, so it's not even going to penetrate it. So even though the fragmentation of your semen is low, the semen might not end up at the egg ready to fertilize it because it's lazy in swimming and doesn't have the right shape. So it can't penetrate. But it's still good to test, and it doesn't cost that much more, so might as well. Do you know if bad morphology is always connected to bad DNA fragmentation? No. So that's, again, oxidative stress related, or you simply need more time on HCG and FSH, because if you only started at 2 months, then the spermatogenesis, it might not be optimized yet. Again, it takes about 3 to 6 months before that's really good. And then assuming your antioxidant status is high throughout that time, then your morphology and motility will be high, even though your DNA fragmentation could be low. All right, so again, go check it now. If your DNA fragmentation is like over 12% right now, then it's clearly oxidative stress. You need more time. But the DNA within the lazy swimmers with weird heads, weird shapes, could still be good. Usually, the longer you wait and the longer you run the protocol, the better your semen parameters will be. Again, it's not magic. Give it half a year at least. Speech 17, got my TRT dialed in. Want to add a small, somewhat hair-safe anabolic. Already lean, test 175 milligrams weekly. I have Primo and Masteron on standby, looking to add a few pounds of muscle mass recommendations. Add more tests and increase the food. Check your DHT levels because Primo is not hair safe, Masteron is not hair safe, and they're not more anabolic than adding in more tests. So if you got your TRT dialed in, why don't you increase your TRT to 250 milligrams weekly and then control your serum estradiol levels and DHT levels accordingly? It's a small jump. You should be able to do it with more frequent injections, or maybe using an aromatase inhibitor or 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. It doesn't have to be a medical one. I explained this in many videos. There's alternative 5-alpha reductase inhibitors and alternative aromatase enzymes inhibitors. So you can go the supplemental route. Right? Sal palmetto, pygium, reishi mushroom extract, all great ways to lower DHT levels. Dinomethane, calcium diglucarate, Cialis, metformin, all great ways to lower your estradiol levels. So I would just add in more tests if you're worried about hair loss, because Primo and Masteron are not hair safe. And if you're just after a few pounds of muscle mass, honestly, do it. More tests and more food, and maybe some Cialis and sal palmetto will get the job done. Just send the Primo and Masteron to me. I'll put it to good use because Uncle Steve doesn't give a fuck about hair loss because I'm already married. And my wife loves this shit. Yeah. She loves it. Well, she probably wants me to grow it back, but who cares? Already locked in. And she can beg all that she wants, but if I want a shaven skull, then it's my prerogative. She likes short hair. I like short hair. Fertility gets hurt even if you run HCG and HMG on TRT. Yeah, we'll never be perfect, man. Will it be enough to get somebody pregnant, assuming that they're still fertile below 35 years old? Sure, it can be. But if you want the maximum semen parameters, you need to come off TRT and run HCG plus FSH. Not HCG plus HMG, HCG plus FSH. Don't worry, I'll explain everything in the video we'll drop. Thoughts on Warhammer 40K? Okay, well, we're getting off topic. Finally, we're getting off topic. I never played Warhammer 40K. So I don't know. The video game footage looks promising, and if they're making a TV series out of it, then I hope it's going to be good. Then again, what's his name? The guy that always plays these characters seems to be cursed. Superman was cursed, and The Witcher was cursed. So if he's doing Warhammer 40K, even though I like the actor, and he's jacked as fuck, might not end up the way we want it to. So let's see. If it's good, it's good. I'll watch it, and if it's gets review bombed, then I'm just going to watch more Star Trek Deep Space Nine. At least that shit is good. Thoughts on the 25K Follistatin gene therapy? I've never seen anybody get buff out of it, so I would save your money. Put that money into Bitcoin and let it accumulate. Thanks for putting us on Methylene Blue. Most potent nootropic I've ever used. Okay, that's good. That's good, especially if you combine it with Dihex or Noopept, alternated, or maybe some Bromantane. Good shit. Yeah, on nootropic benefits through different pathways. Personally, I would not do the Follistatin gene therapy. I've seen people that got it for free and they got no results. So I would rather run YK-11, and for $25,000, you can run a boatload of YK-11 and growth hormone and IGF-1 Increlex if you can find it, and I think you'll get better results. I mean, I'm bigger than the guys that did Follistatin gene therapy. You know what's weird about Brian Johnson? He did that Follistatin gene therapy, right? He did the interview with Derek More Plates, More Dates, which took place 6 months ago, by the way, or over 6 months ago, but he just dropped it because Derek's too busy to drop all these podcasts that he did in the past. And if you compare how Brian Johnson looks now compared to that interview or a year ago when he was more jacked, I think he lost all of the potential Follistatin gene therapy gains with the excessive amount of rapamycin that he ran, which he now discontinued. So, Brian, if you're watching, just go to the gym, lift some weights, take some TRT, and you'll be okay. You don't need to do these expensive treatments. If you want to get a great physique, you can get a 10-hour package for $20,000 with me, and I'll teach you exactly what you need to know. And I also teach you how to get more bang for your buck out of your cerebral acid with dipeptidyl peptidase 4 enzymes, which I asked him about, and he didn't know what I was talking about. So you'll spend $20,000 with me, way better, and actually learn something new. Brian. Yeah. Then again, the other Brian Johnson didn't want to listen to me either. So, and look where he's at now. Jesus Christ, that guy looks rough. Holy shit. Anyway, that's beside the point. D-Brad, even though you're on HCG, will there be a downregulation of the hypothalamus to the pituitary? Yes, because you're replacing the luteinizing hormone signaling, and your testosterone levels and estrogen levels are high, which are causing this negative feedback. So, even if you're on HCG plus aromasin, to bring your estrogen levels down to, let's say, bottom or below the reference range, you will still get shut down. It is what it is. I've seen guys on HCG and aromasin, or HCG and anastrozole. Testosterone levels are high, but estrogen levels are low, and over time, luteinizing hormone levels and follicle-stimulating hormone levels come down. If you're on HCG for years and then decide to come off, like you noticed from your NAFLD. Now, if you on HCG monotherapy for years, your LH and FSH levels are suppressed, you have HPTA shut down, and you need to do a post-cycle therapy, but at least your testicular function wasn't suppressed, so post-cycle therapy should be faster and easier compared to doing a steroid cycle, unless you took HCG on steroids, but then the PCT will be rough because your post-PCT total testosterone and free testosterone levels will not be comparable to being on cycle. If you did HCG monotherapy, even then they might be double or at least 1.5 times higher than they would be after stopping the HCG, because you're taking HCG in such an amount that you get super physiological levels of testosterone, way more than you would get from natural LH, natural luteinizing hormone production. So once you go on, it's hard to come off, because your testosterone levels will never be as high as TRT, full-blown steroid cycles, or even HCG monotherapy, or even clomid and clomiphene monotherapy. That's why being natural sucks after being on cycle, or manipulating your hormone levels. Kratos, sounds good, man. First time trying high Masteron test Primo. Last two blasts were great, but hair loss accelerated. I want to try test the Masteron. Well, you might be in for a surprise. Because Masteron is less hair safe than Test and Primo. And if you did Test and Primo in a 1-to-1 ratio, and now you do Test and Masteron in a 1-to-3 ratio, then you're probably going to look like me by the end of your cycle, which means jacked, but no hair. Which is not the end of the world. I still get laid. I still get the winks from the ladies. They probably think, they can steal me away from my wife, which is impossible. Hey, Steve, I get super annoying mid-lower back pumps during leg day and back workouts. I'm consuming 5 to 6 grams of taurine daily, but it doesn't seem to be helping. Any advice? Lower your dosages of the steroids. Maybe remove the oral steroids. I got terrible lower back pumps on this last cycle of tests, Deca, Ment, Anadrol, and YK-11, and I just suffered through because I like leg days. So, and maybe angle your body in a little bit better way that you don't raise your butt off the platform when you do leg press, or maybe, position your squat a little bit better, or maybe switch to X squat or V squat where you don't lose your lower back as much as real squats, right? You can always change your exercise selection. But even then, I got kind of lower back pumps during leg days, and I just suffered through it. You got to sacrifice something for gains, and lower back pumps are part of it, man. Or you can do what I did in the past, is just go ham on, what is it called? Hyperextensions, and just punish your lower back to the point that it swells up so much that the lower back pumps that you get during leg day are not as bad as you will get from going to town on the hyperextensions. That's brutal, though. Doesn't feel nice. Anyway, just look for lower back pumps on my YouTube channel, and you'll get some ideas. Can oral albuterol be anabolic above 4 milligrams for men? Yeah, that seems to be where the anabolism starts to manifest. I think 4 milligrams, whether that was for men or women, per day, it's same as 40 micrograms clean for men and women. I can't really, it's probably more anabolic in women than it is in men because, of course, their body weight levels are lower, so you get more of a dose compared to their body weight. But yeah, it was shown to be slightly anabolic, beyond 4 milligrams per day. Will that compare to like testosterone or ectosterone? Probably. Will that compare to TRT? Probably not. So, is it another anabolic pathway you can dive into by taking clenbuterol or albuterol that has some activity through the beta-2 adrenergic receptors? Sure. How much it will contribute? 1 to 2%? On top of TRT or steroid cycles, it's worth taking because you get fat loss out of it as well. How long can one remain on the same amount of steroids and growth hormone and increase calories to continue growing? Until you get fat. I explained that in the step-by-step cycle design video. Does the body ever reach a point of homeostasis and stop responding in a time-dependent manner? No, it just, at one point you stop responding and just get fat because you're in a caloric surplus and you stop growing because you can't utilize all of the nutrients with your muscle tissue until you increase the steroids and the growth hormone or the insulin or the IGF-1. Or maybe at one point you're just in a poor insulin-sensitive state, and then you need to do a mini cut, which is also part of step-by-step cycle design. Or maybe you need to do a deload because you're just overtrained. Maybe you need to increase your rest and recovery by reducing your time in the gym or sets that you're taking to failure rate. All these things you can take into consideration and make adjustment with. But at one point, there comes a point in time where you need to increase the steroids or the performance-enhancing drugs for you to keep growing. And then you might end up at a 3-gram cycle and 12 IUs or 18 IUs of growth hormone, 50 IUs of insulin, or 1 milligram Increlex. It sucks. It sucks, man. It's just part of the game. The bigger you get, the more shit you might need to take. And that being said, there's some guys that take less now than they took before because they enhanced their nutrition and they enhance their training style, right? I mean, look at John Jewett. We talk about this in the Anabolic Roundtable that will drop on Monday. John really honed in his training, and I'm gonna be honest. I haven't run high dose cycles steroid wise for a long time now, even though I bumped up the growth hormone, which gave me more synergy for the amount of steroids that I was taking. But since I'm eating better and since I'm training better, I get better stimulus, and that's why I'm growing. So again, there's always something you can improve, and you don't always need to improve your growth hormone dosages or your steroid dosages. Maybe you can improve your nutrition and utilize the calories a little bit better, or maybe improve your training. Right? Improve your training protocol, your training intensity, your time under tension, your rest in between sets, all that shit, right? So there's somewhere you can improve, and it doesn't always mean that you need to improve your steroid intake. Let's see, where are we? Can you recommend a small, slim line CPAP machine? You have this. I started using CPAP after I broke 115 kilos because I was snoring. My sleep quality is good, but the snoring was pissing off my wife, so I bought a ResMed Air. What was it called? ResMed Air Sense 11. And if you want the small one, you get a ResMed Air Mini, but that doesn't have a humidifier, and I do like a humidifier in my CPAP machine. So I got a CPAP machine with a little thing that you put on your nose. So it's not like a mask, but just on the nose, and it just have a whole set, and it blows air into your nose, which feels really uncomfortable in the beginning. But if you set it up right, and this let's see, the ResMeds, the Air Mini or the AirSense 11, pretty good APAP machine. So it's automatic, right? So it pumps air more forcefully when you're breathing in, and then it kind of reduces the pressure. So my pressure right now is at, I think, 8 to 12. So it starts at 8, and then as you're sleeping, it bumps it up to 12. And it seems to keep me asleep with perfect sleep score throughout the night. But now that I'm getting leaner and lowering my body fat levels and reducing my body weight, I think I don't need it anymore. So I'll probably discontinue using the CPAP next week, see if my sleep score is changed, and then see if I'm still snoring. And if my sleep score isn't affected and my snoring doesn't come back because my body weight levels are lower and my steroid intake is lower and my caloric intake is lower, then obviously I don't need it. And I will just put it in the closet. But yeah, the ResMed Air Mini seems to be the smallest good one you can buy. All the research that I've done. Then again, this is my first CPAP machine, so I don't have so much experience. I'm sure you can find a better. There's YouTube channels dedicated to this kind of stuff. Wait, I'm getting fucking sleepy. I'm gonna throw in the towel soon. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, buddy. Putting together another book and might revise the mint book with more anecdotal information. I'll forward you a copy. Okay, good. But make videos, man. Video. Nobody reads ebooks. Unless you're selling a lot of them, just make videos. It does more good for people. Does Brian Johnson use cerebrolysin? Yes. So he was running a cerebrolysin experiment. I actually asked him during his call-in when he was in Shanghai. I personally asked him how his cerebrolysin experiment was going, and he said it was hard to quantify. So he didn't really have a good response that I would be able to add to the cerebrolysin deep dive. What I noticed from 2 months of 5 milliliters cerebrolysin per day is that I'm more calm, more composed, a little bit more mellow, better moods, and I feel more cognitive, even though it doesn't really show today, but give me a break. I just went on a week-long bender holiday where I drank, well, almost 1.5 to 2 bottles of wine per day. Can be good. I had a great time, though. I had a great time, but I had copious amounts of alcohol in New Zealand. So I need a little bit of time to regain my composure. But it should be better once I get my sleep, my time zones under control and my sleep schedule under control. But yeah, Brian Johnson was using cerebrolysin. He didn't know how to enhance the effects by taking a dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor to prevent the breakdown of brain-derived neurotrophic factor and glial line-derived neurotropic factor and the other nootropic factors that are within. But that will all be contained in the Cerebral Acid Deep Dive. So many deep dives pending, but yeah, I got so much stuff to do. And again, I spent a good amount of time on the cryptocurrency market right now because that's where the real money is right now. And excuse me if I'm focusing on setting myself up for more financial freedom compared to making more deep dives, because I drop a deep dive and it gets maybe $50, where I can make $50,000 to $500,000 to maybe $5 million if I set up my trades right. So give me a break if this year has less videos. There'll be more videos in the cryptocurrency bear market because then I have less shit to do regarding cryptocurrency. But right now I'm doing technical analysis. I'm making killer trades, and I gotta provide for the family first and make YouTube videos second. Don't worry, you'll be there. And it's not like anybody else is making them, so you guys are completely codependent on my ability to make videos. Robert McBlacks asks, running testosterone 375 milligrams per week, 125 milligrams probably over 3 shots. Where should I keep my estradiol? Top of the reference range, because over that, most people get side effects. Currently at 35. Okay, so you have some wiggle room. Libido is not great. Where would you like to see my E2 for this dosage? Could be 40, could be 50. Libido is not great. Why? How's your DHT levels? How's your caloric intake? How's your stress levels? And how's your fat intake? How's your DHA and pregnenolone intake? Where are your DHA and pregnenolone levels? All these things contribute. It's not just testosterone and estradiol, guys. I watched the libido deep dive. It will literally explain everything. You should have good libido on an estradiol of 35 for this much testosterone if you have low stress, good fat intake, sufficient caloric intake, and your DHA and pregnenolone levels are also towards the top of the reference range, and you might be supplementing with oxytocin and Semax. And if you're doing all of that and your libido is still not good, then maybe your partner isn't hot. Maybe you have no respect for your partner. Maybe you don't love her anymore. Maybe you don't find her attractive. That happens. Maybe everything you're doing regarding your hormone levels, your neurosteroid levels, your peptide stack, your caloric intake, your stress levels are low, but maybe the partner isn't hot. Maybe slowly getting fat. Discuss that. Put her on a diet. Make her run. Remove that cellulite and get a nice tight booty that is tappable. Right? I mean, my wife is fucking hot, man. For 10 years, she's been fucking hot. So I want to tap that ass frequently. I did that 4 times while I was in New Zealand. 4 times. 4 fucking times. I was there for 5 to 6 days. After 10 years of being together, I tapped that ass hard and quietly because she was sharing too many details, right? But I was sharing one of those cottages with my good friend. He was staying in a different room, obviously, so I had to tap that ass quietly. But I had to tap that ass because my wife is hot, and my estradiol levels are 3 times higher than yours, and my testosterone intake is similar. It's not the estradiol, man. It's a high fat intake and having a hot wife. Yeah. Does he answer non-subscribed people? No, man, I have to say this every time. It's a like of super floods or a flood of super chats. And once the super chats are done, then I answer member questions in between, like Brad, for example. And then maybe if there's time, member questions, but it's been 2 hours and it's been non-stop super chats and non-stop member questions. So what can I do? You support me financially, and you get preferential treatment. If there's time, which I don't think there's time today, then I'll answer some other questions, unless I know your username. Like Anthony, for example, sweet, first of the year, Anthony supported me with copious amounts of uh, cocktails and fancy tequilas and popcorn at his speakeasy in Las Vegas. So I remember his username, and he also gets preferential treatment because he liquored me up good. It's not very bodybuilding approved, but I do like some alcohol. Yeah, so I'll visit this speakeasy very soon when I go to Las Vegas before I go over to Ohio. Okay, let's do some more member questions. But yeah, you're in the queue, man. Mads, you're in the queue. You're very low in the queue, unless you become a member or unless you super chat. Sorry, bro. That's just how life is. All right. What dosages letrozole to replace Aromasin or Remidex? TRT clinics where I'm from only give letrozole. Letrozole compares very well milligram for milligram wise to Arimidex. The reason why they say that letrozole is more strong is because they compare 2.5 milligrams letrozole to 1 milligram Arimidex, which isn't really fair. Right? It's 2.5 times the dose on a milligram for milligram basis. If you take 2.5 milligrams of Arimidex and you compare that to 2.5 milligrams of letrozole, you'll find that 2.5 milligrams of Arimidex actually suppresses estradiol levels more. So, if you take 0.5 milligram Arimidex 2 times a week, I would suggest you start with 0.5 milligram letrozole 2 times per week, which is difficult because you have to cut those tablets in 5s. You can cut them in 4s, right, with a razor or a tablet cutter, but then you have 0.625 milligrams. So it's a little bit more. So maybe you cut them in 4s and then you trim off the little corner in the middle. You go by eye, and they have a whole lot of sawdust that you're 5th serving, and then quarters that have their corner cut off. So it's actually a 5th. I hope he answers. Yeah, man. Super chat me first. Cheapo. On 420 milligrams total test on liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry. Total test came back at 1,800 nanograms per deciliter. Nice. Free test at 40 picograms per milliliter and estradiol 39 picograms per milliliter. Total test seems to be a bit low for that dose. It depends on how often you inject and how close you checked your blood work compared to the injection. So if you want the highest level, check it the next day. 24 hours after. That's usually where it peaks, or 36 hours after. So let's say you go on Saturday morning for blood work and you inject either Friday morning or Thursday evening. Not on any AI. I'm a low aromatizer, even though I'm 15% body fat. Okay, that's good, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a normal reading, man, for that much test. Even though I would like to see, if you shoot like 250 milligrams of test, the next day it should be like 2,600. So if you're shooting, what is it? 420 divided by 2, 210. Yeah, it should be at least 2,000, 2,300 the next day after your injection. But if this was on the day of your injection, 3 days after your last injection, then yes, obviously your levels are going to be lower. And if you do daily subcutaneous microadministrations for 20 divided by 7, you do 60 milligrams sub-Q per day, then it might not be as high as you expect. As long as you're getting it in, you're going to get results. Right? Testosterone is not active in the bloodstream. It's active when it attaches to the androgen receptor on skeletal muscle. So whatever level you get on the bloodstream is just an indication. And if you're making gains, you should be happy. Chase Irons is also a username I remember, even though Chase Irons was never a member, never super chatted me. He did hook me up with MA as an affiliate, and for that I will be eternally grateful, because the affiliate sales for MA, holy moly. Well, Chase Irons knows, as I know, those affiliate sales, fucking sweet. So Chase Irons is not only jacked, is not only my friend, but also put a lot of money in my pocket, and that's why I remember his username. I mean, look at this chunk of man in the avatar. Who would not remember that? I have an Air Mini for travel. It's excellent as long as you aren't in a place that needs a humidifier. Yeah, so if you're in Las Vegas or you sleep in the air conditioning, which dehumidifies the air, then you can go with an Air Mini, a Resmed Air Mini. But I like the Resmed Air 11 with the humidifier, and I fill it up with water, distilled water. So when I was in Holland and the UK, I didn't use the humidifier because the first night I used it at the regular humidification settings that I would use in Thailand. I haven't used it in Vegas yet because I didn't need actually I needed it, but I didn't have one because, what is it? Aaron told me, dude, you're snoring up a storm. What the fuck? Get a CPAP. And he was right. So I didn't get a chance to use it there, but he has an Air Mini without the humidification, but the similar attachment. So I wonder how he's going to do over there in the humidity, when a low humidity with an what is it called, an air conditioning blowing, making the humidity even lower. So he definitely needs a humidification system if he stays there long term. So yeah, I will bring my Air what is it called, Air 11 to Las Vegas. And then I will fill it up with water. But in the UK and Holland, I didn't need that. So I removed the water and reduced the humidity setting to 0 because it was so humid there. It was cold because the inside of the tube that goes from the CPAP machine to the nose attachment, full with water. On the first night I used it in the UK, it was nasty. I almost felt like I was drowning. Brutal. All right, guys, I'm going to throw in the towel because I'm fucking tired. So let me answer the last couple of super chats. Where are we? And then I'm gonna go to bed. How much better do you think your kids will be of having a parent having so dialed in on health? 2 times, 20 times, they'll be ahead of everybody else. Yeah, they'll have a good life. How much more compared to average? Well, it's not difficult to be ahead of general population. Holy shit. But they'll be ahead a lot. 17 beta hydroxy undrosed for N3-one. I'm not sure which metabolite that is, but it's a fancy name. Difference in injection frequency for size and strength daily versus 1 to 2 times per week testosterone supplement. Any benefits to peaks unless no, I think the size, strength, it'll all be the same. Serum levels will be lower, but you get the same amount of testosterone in over the week, albeit you get less aromatization into dietary testosterone and estradiol. So technically, since it's aromatizing and 5-alpha reducing less for more frequent injections, even though serum levels are lower compared to doing 1 shot or 2 times a week, you should actually be slightly stronger and have slightly more size, even though in the end result it probably doesn't make a difference. I never noticed a fucking difference between doing 2 shots of, let's say, 500 tests per week versus daily subcutaneous administrations of 150 milligrams testosterone per week, resulting in 1,000 milligrams per week. So I don't think you're going to notice a difference. What are your thoughts on using low-dose aspirin daily? The problem is that low-dose aspirin can lower your stomach lining, and since we already use oral steroids, we already eat the same food, and we change our stomach acidity levels, I don't think low-dose aspirin daily is a good thing to do when high-dose fish oil and a good amount of vitamin E daily can help with similar blood thinning effects, making aspirin obsolete, and fish oil and vitamin E doesn't reduce your stomach lining, so you're not burning holes in your stomach. So if you take aspirin, you're automatically forced to take copious amounts of glutamine to keep your stomach lining somewhat intact. And even then, I don't see a reason to use aspirin, man. Benjamin Heights, Steve, during the holidays, do you keep up with your supplement stack? Normally when I travel, yes. But this time when I went to New Zealand, I stopped all my supplements because I wanted to see if the supplements were bloating me or the food. And it was definitely the food. This week I reintroduced all of the supplements, and I didn't eat any food. I had zero bloating until I had some chia seeds today, but now it's already better. But man, that's the first thing I noticed. It like automatically I started getting irritation in the stomach. But normally I bring all of my supplements with me. But going to a country like New Zealand or Australia, they're just annoying, fucking annoying customs. So I didn't feel like bringing anything. And even I brought my my cigars with me. They said, "Oh, you have to declare the cigars." So luckily, I declared the cigars because they're going to scan everybody, right? Arriving in New Zealand, so I declared my cigars, and then they were very nice at customs. They said, "You can bring in 50 cigars per person. You brought in your cigars, but we can split that between you and your wife. So that's 50 grams of cigars for me and 50 grams of cigars for my wife, even though she doesn't smoke and she's fucking pregnant." So obviously, but they were nice enough saying, "Why don't we split that?" They weighed my cigars. It was 130 grams. So that was 15 grams per person. 15 grams per person over the amount. And they said it was not worth the time because that would only allow me, me to charge me 20 New Zealand dollars, which is not worth their time. And I told them, said, well, if we were in another country, like an Asian country, they would definitely charge me, but that $20 would disappear right into their pockets, not into the system. Happened to me in Bhutan when I declared cigars. They say, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, it was like, I think it was $20 also, yeah, that I had to pay. And I didn't get a receipt. So it went straight into somebody's pocket. And then I smoked those cigars with the Prince of Bhutan, no less. So it was worth to pay $20 extra for. Yeah, anyway, long story. So yeah, I declared, and it wasn't worth their time. So, but I didn't want to go through the issue of having my supplements with me and then having to go through the entire process. So, countries like that, I would not bring it. When I went to the US for a month, I brought all of my supplements and then some. And all of the supplements I didn't want to bring, I was able to get locally. So yeah, Benjamin, if you're traveling, just bring your supplements, assuming that they're legal in the country that you're going to bring them to. Under so many super chats. 1 milliliter of AA pre-workout products is sufficient, or should it be dosed based on body weight? Also, should Cardarine and inositol tripyrophosphate used intramuscular or sub-Q? I would use Cardarine and inositol tripyrophosphate orally. I don't see a reason to use that intramuscularly or sub-Q, but you could inject it sub-Q if you have a formula of injectable Cardarine or injectable inositol tripyrophosphate, because it goes systemic. It has no localized effect. Right? Cardarine, even though it works on skeletal muscle, it should go systemic because the 10 to 20 milligrams that you inject should work systemically in all of your skeletal muscle tissue. And the inositol tripyrophosphate binds to the hemoglobin within your red blood cells. So there's no point in injecting that intramuscularly when it has to go systemic into your bloodstream. And regarding the injectable pre-workouts from AA, start with 1 cc split bilaterally into the muscle that you're going to train that day. That has a localized effect, the carnitine and the, what is it called? And the adenosine tripyrophosphate and the adenosine monophosphate, even though it goes systemic and dilates the arteries, but also gives you a localized effect regarding vasodilation within the muscle that you're training. And then vitamin B12 and the, what is in there? The amino acid blend, right? It depends on which injectable pre-workout formula you take. I would do that intramuscularly bilaterally with an insulin syringe. And then you start with half a cc bilaterally, and then you can graduate to 2 cc's if you want. I would do half a cc of Stampede and half a cc Super Shredder bilaterally, so that's 1 cc each for a total of 2 cc's. Man, those pumps were brutal, dude. Yeah, good stuff. But I started low and built my way up. And again, my chest is juicy as fuck. Also, my finger went numb in left hand recently from overuse of sledgehammer. Ring and middle fingers. Sledgehammer? Is that another injectable pre-workout? Sledgehammer? I don't know what sledgehammer is. And it's late in the chat, so I guess we'll never know. Ring and middle finger started at BPC and regained feeling. My elbow is orgasm. I think you need to take that $10 and try to formulate in a way I can understand. Yeah. Because I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Tim L. 150 milligrams testosterone 3 times per week for a total of 450 milligrams over the week. My estradiol is twice out of the reference range at 400 picomoles per liter. Usually it's around 150 to 170 picomoles per liter. That's the top of the reference range of this particular concentration. Don't feel any sides, not yet. I would get full-blown gyno at this level. Gonna go back to taking 1 times Arimidex a week. Are these levels bad if I don't feel any sides? I don't know. Touch your nipples, man. My nipples are like, my gyno's like twice the size. And an estradiol of this twice out of the reference range. So you could say so far so good until you wake up with full-blown gyno and then you have to do a $3,000 to $5,000 surgery. So what is cheaper, Arimidex or gyno surgery? I'll leave that decision up to you. And then the last super chat, I think it's the last one. Low dose Anavar cycle for aesthetic on TRT, 20 milligrams daily for 6 weeks. That's not low dose. That's an effective dose. Hair safe. Anavar is not known to be hair safe, but maybe 5 milligrams per day is hair safe. Also, crypto recommendations for 2025. Bitcoin. Maybe Ethereum is going to run at one point. And then... well, the top 20 is going to run, and then the meme coins is going to run. So for 2025, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with any crypto, but they're going to run in waves. So this is what I think. Let's leave it here. I think Bitcoin is going to run. Then Ethereum is going to run. Let's say Bitcoin is going to run between now and like after the election, or Trump gets into office. Gary Gensler quits. That's going to be a nice moment for crypto, just like when we heard that Gary Gensler was going to quit, then you saw that Ripple ran. So when Gary Gensler actually quits, I think we're going to get a nice pump for Bitcoin and Ripple, probably. So I'm into Ripple and I'm into Bitcoin, obviously. Then I think Bitcoin is going to have an Elliott wave correction. I don't think this was the Elliott wave correction. I think we're going to get that around January, February. Then after the Elliott wave correction, I think Ethereum or Solana is going to run. So I'm going to go move 25% of my money of Bitcoin into Ethereum and 25% into Solana, because I'm not sure how this market is going to respond. All right, to Ethereum and Solana. So I'm just going to put into both. Then I'm 50% in, well, let's say 40% of the Bitcoin, 10% of the altcoins, and then 25% Ethereum, 25 Solana. Whichever one of those are going to run after about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm going to move half of the funds of Solana into Ethereum or vice versa, and then let that sit because it might run later. Then when Ethereum starts to top or Solana starts to top, I'm going to move 100% of the funds into the other one. And once Ethereum and Solana, or either or both, is done running, then I'm going to go heavy on the top 20 alts, like Ripple and HBAR or Hedera and, Cardano, whatever else, right? The ones that have already been pumping, but I don't think they're going to pump that hard when Bitcoin and Ethereum or Solana or both are pumping. Again, Ethereum and Solana have been stagnant the last couple of months, which gives you all the more reason for them to pump. And again, if they don't pump and something else pumps, don't get married to the coin. Move the funds out into something else that's pumping, because when it pumps, it usually pumps for a couple of weeks. So it's not the end of the world, right? Not financial advice. It's just what I'm going to do, not what you should be doing, even though it might sound as a recommendation. And then you buy some Dogecoin and some Fartcoin and some Pepe coin and some Shiba coin, and you let those run after the top 20 alts have been running. When you check the chart of Dogecoin on January the 6th, 2021 or 2017, you see a massive candle. Massive. Fuck, let's check that out now. I can stay awake for cryptocurrency talk. Let's see. Spot Doge versus USDT, not USDC. Doge. Not TUSD. USDT, man. All right. Week charts. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Dude, you go to the week charts, and then you get a little pump on 14 December, then on 28 December, 25th of January, it mooned hard. And then the week after, so it's only 2 weeks, right? It only moons hard for a week, and then it consolidates for a couple of weeks, and then it moons again. So have a look at those charts. Notify the dates. We just had a major pump after Trump got elected for 1 or 2 weeks, and then now it's consolidating. Now it's recovering a little bit. But yeah, it could pump so fucking hard. I was also wondering, that's the Doge versus Bitcoin chart, probably. Where is that? Yeah, the 28th of this. Let me go to the day chart. Where is it? Dude, in one day, the 28th of January 2021, so that's the end of the month, in 2 days, it pumped 1,000%. 1,000%. And then it consolidated. And then on the 13th of April, for 3 days, it mooned, let's say, 600%. So when you see some consolidation on Doge, I don't think it's going to pump that hard, but you never know, right? You never know if they're going to incorporate Doge into the strategic reserve. And if they announce some sort of strategic reserve and, Doge is going to be used for that besides Bitcoin on the, what is it called? The Doge Fund, whatever that stands for now, in the where Elon Musk is a part of, that government agency, strategic, I don't know, whatever. It's been consolidating now since 12 November, right? It's consolidating sideways with a little dip in the latest Bitcoin correction, but now it's basically at the consolidation range. Getting rejected slightly, and it's also rejecting on the 50-day moving average. So if it breaks the 50-day moving average, even though I already bought at the 100-day moving average, because it just had a buy order there, that's on the Doge versus Bitcoin valuation. And it's not about the money now. It's about how much Bitcoin you can accumulate, because that's the last one that's going to pump again. After all of the crypto gains from the altcoins, the large cap and the small cap, and the Ethereum gains and the Solana gains, it's all going to move into Bitcoin at one point. And then you sell into stable coins or fiat. And then you buy a house. Or Lamborghini, whatever you want. And it's not the time yet. So right now it's just about accumulating more Bitcoin, but you can trade Bitcoin for Dogecoin. And then once Dogecoin moons versus Bitcoin, let's say you buy 1 Bitcoin worth of Dogecoin and it moons 1,000%, and you turn 1 Bitcoin into 10 Bitcoin. And good luck doing that with trading in 1 day. Now, that's the previous chart of the last cycle, not the current chart. So let's see if that happens again. All right, last super chat, then I'm out. 75 milligrams TRT, 350 milligrams MPP versus test plus finasteride for hair safe blast. I think both are pretty hair safe. Yeah, but only your scalp will know. Okay, and with that, we're going to throw in the towel. I'm fucking tired. Tomorrow's blood work, stool analysis, and let's see, what is it called? a food allergy test. So, oh yeah, and hydrotherapy. So tomorrow's going to be a big day. And then my wife wanted to watch Craven the Hunter. So I don't know. I'm going to survive tomorrow. Do a couple Hail Marys for me. Hit that like button to wish me good luck for tomorrow because blood work, stool analysis, food allergy test, and hydrotherapy, all this, and then Craven the Hunter, man. It's a rough day, man. And it's supposed to be a fun Sunday. So wish me luck. And we'll see you guys next week. I might do another week of fasting next week. This week I lasted for, let's say, 3.5 days. I just broke fast with salmon and chia seeds. I'm going to have another meal before I go to bed, which is basically soon. And then maybe next week I'll do 5.5 days with some fat burners this time. I'm not going to raw dog it. This is pretty rough. So, yeah, we got some good videos dropping, including another anabolic roundtable on Monday. Okay, guys, I'm out. I'm tired as fuck. And it's been here. It's been 2 hours, 50 minutes. Long enough. All right. Enjoy your weekend. I know I will try tomorrow. But otherwise, you guys enjoy your weekend for me also. All right. Peace out. See you next weekend. Take care.